My husband got me this fun Mixed Media Botanical Set by Caran. Let's see what I can make with it. Hi, Shanna Rowe Jackson here from Caution Artist at Play. I got this set as a gift from my husband either for Christmas or for my birthday or something like that, and I haven't really had the chance to use it. Well, other than this palette aquarelle, I did take that out and use it because I needed a clean one for a video. But this is basically a hard plastic palette with a rough side that you can color water media on to use to pick up like watercolor. This also comes with a creative class by Julie Thomas, and it has a QR code and everything like that, but I'm covering that up because you need to obviously have the set to have access to that class. And it comes with an assortment of their Supracolor watercolor pencils, as well as their Fibralo brush markers and their regular Fibralo markers. And I believe those markers are all water soluble. They also include some watercolor postcards to work on. And it comes with a little paintbrush as well. And so I think it's a fun little set. It's got kind of a unique color scheme, so I'm interested in seeing what we can do with the colors in this set. It'll be fun. And I've never used their markers before, so. And then it also comes with a brush, but spoiler alert, I will not be using this brush. I do not like those bristles. I tried it off screen and no, I'll be bringing in my own brushes. So let's look at the super colors that come in this set. We have golden yellow, apricot, salmon, scarlet, ruby red, dark carmine, light olive, moss green, olive black, Veronese green, jade green, and sky blue. And you can see their light fast ratings on the side. They also included 5 of their Fibralo water soluble brush markers. I believe these are a student grade. They don't have any color names or light fast ratings or anything on them, but this one has a dark blue barrel, and the back end and the cover show the color of what the marker's supposed to be, and a fun little brush tip here. And the cover seems to go on the back end okay, which is nice because I like to put my cover there so I don't lose them. But yeah, hexagonal barrel so it doesn't roll. And then these seem to be their regular Fibralo markers. I don't know much about these markers, but these have just a regular bullet nib. The barrel is the color of the color that you're supposed to be getting. And then you can see here, this is what the bullet nib looks like. And again, no color information or light fast information or anything like that. But both of them have a brush on it to indicate that they are going to be water soluble, even though each one of them, of course, has a different nib. So you got the brush nib there and the bullet nib for comparison. So it'll be pretty interesting. I don't typically work with markers a whole lot unless I'm working with the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pens. See, this cap does not stay on the back end, so that's going to be annoying. Okay, so here are the postcards that they gave us, and they actually give us a few practice postcards, which I think is pretty cool, and it teaches us a little bit about calligraphy. So I think the purpose of this set is supposed to be like loose florals and hand lettering. I will be practicing a little bit of that in the postcards that they gave me, but spoiler alert, another spoiler alert. I will not be doing any of that in the piece that I do. So I also don't end up taking the class while I am working on this video because, again, I don't want to give away what the class entails. That's definitely something that is a bonus if you get this set. So I don't want to give that information away for free. Okay, so these are pretty fun for the hand lettering aspect. I am going through with each of the colors and I am using the guide on the left-hand side. I'm not the best at hand lettering. I'm getting better at it, but I just don't practice it enough. So this was kind of fun, and it was a great way for me to swatch their brush markers and get a feel for the colors that I had in this set. And I want to find a fun way to incorporate these with my pencils. I think that's one of the funnest things about getting a mixed media set is you might end up with a bunch of supplies that you normally wouldn't use together. And so it is going to be interesting. And then they also had a pre-drawn I love you postcard here. So I thought this would be a great way to practice with these as well. And I want to bring in the water and see how the markers do with water. And I end up giving this postcard to my husband as a gift since he gave me this set. So I thought it was pretty fitting. And I'm not being a perfectionist about this. I am going along with the guidelines and just getting to know the supplies. I'm not a huge fan of how these markers work with water. I definitely think there's some dyes in them, especially with the purple, which I'll show you later on. I think that there's some dyes there, and so I don't think, where there's no light fast ratings on these, this is not something that I would plan to use in work that I plan to sell, but I do think these will be fun for sketchbook work and things like that. But for work that I plan to sell, again, I'll be sticking with my Faber-Castell Albrecht Dürer watercolor markers or the Pitt Artist pens if I'm going to be, working with water-based markers. But I do like the color combination. It's so fun and summery, and so I'm loving the colors that were included in this set. And I'm just kind of adding a little bit of blue in the background. And then I decide to come in with the markers and just draw my own loose florals. Again, I'm not following anything for this part. Loose florals are not my forte. I'm getting, I need to practice more. These markers, though, were not probably the best thing for me to practice with. I'm just going to put it that way. The pink was a lot of fun. I should have been probably using a larger brush, but this is what I had right handy. And again, I was not using that brush that they gave me. Oh, Lord. I guess I probably should have put that on camera, but the bristles were just so soft that it wouldn't move anything the way I needed it to. It would not move the pigment around. Now, this purple is where it really seems like these might have some dyes in them. Just the way it separates out, it makes me feel like the pink that comes through looks very, very artificial to me. Which is fine. Like, they didn't claim that they were pigment-based or anything like that, at least not that I've seen. I haven't researched these markers, but it was just an observation. So now I am going to take all my colors out and decide what I want to draw. Initially, I wanted to do some sort of floral because this is a floral set. I get out my color cubes by Sarah Renee Clark and I look at the floral arrangements, and there was nothing that was really calling my name. There was nothing there with this color scheme. So I looked at some of the butterflies as well, and there wasn't really anything there either, but I did find more than one card in the Juicy Fruits section of the color cubes that had quite a few of these colors. And I decided, you know what? I am just going to combine a few of these cards and make my own design, and that way there I can use as many of these colors as possible. So these are the cards that I chose out. Very citrusy, very watermelony, and very summery. So it may not be flowers, but I do think that I found a good combination of cards for these colors. And then I am just going to get my postcard taped down. I was going to freehand, but I'm no hero. I am no hero. So I am tracing the circles because, listen, there's not an artist alive that can just do a perfect circle. And well, if there is, it ain't me. Can't be me, okay? And even with the handy dandy stencil to guide me, you'll see my circles get wonky later on and I have to come in and straighten them out. Anyway, so I really loved that kind of teal background. I decided to come in with both my pencils and my markers to try and figure out how I wanted to get a nice flat background. It is not going to be flat for a while. It ends up a little bit wonky. I did figure out though that going over the pencil with the marker, since they're both water soluble, ended up being smoother than just using the marker alone. These are water-based markers. They do not blend very easily. Now, granted, these were probably included in the set to do some type of calligraphy stuff. But me, I want to use them for my drawings. So it is what it is. Like, obviously, there are better markers out there for blending, and that's fine. I'm just sitting down and having a good time and listening to music and trying to do some fun summery artwork. But I will come in later on with my pencils and smooth out that background once everything has dried. One thing that I did notice is that this paper really, it is made for watercolor, but it's not as thick as it probably should be, especially if you're going to be using water-based markers. Water-based markers eat up paper really easily. There are going to be some spots later on, especially where I try to correct some of my circles that get a little overworked and they show through on the other side, and I'll show you that at the end. But I'm just going along with my own little composition and drew in some watermelon, some various citrus fruits, and a few slices of lime here and there. I mean, lime is citrus, you know what I'm saying. And I'm going through on the watermelon, and I am using a combination of going right in with the pencil and then washing it out, or coloring my pencil on my palette and then carrying it over with a wet brush. And it worked really well to layer it that way. Now, if you are interested in these pencils, I do have a video where I created a piece using the Caran Supracolors. I will link that in the description below, and I also use them in my big watercolor pencil comparison video. I'll link that as well. I do enjoy these pencils. They feel a little bit more on the gouache side than the watercolory side for me compared with other pencils that I have used. But they work really well. You know, they're Caran, they're vibrant. They're less expensive than their Museum Aquarelle, but I do find that the Museum Aquarelle wash out a little bit more smoothly. With good reason, obviously. Like, they're the really high end of theirs. But these are somewhere, like, they're not the most student of the student grade, but they're not their highest end watercolor pencils. So they're somewhere in between, pretty reasonably priced for a Caran product, but Caran does tend to be pricey. So I'm just coming through and creating all my citrus fruits. Some of these I don't even think exist in the real world. I kind of reversed the colors a little bit. I didn't have an orangey orange. Like, the slice up in the corner, that was going to be an orange. It looks more like a lemon. So there were times when I had to kind of combine my yellowy orange color with my pinks and stuff like that. You know, on this grapefruit, I really was trying to get that outside of it to be more orangey. It ends up being pink for a little while, then it goes back to like a John Brilliant color. It's a whole mess. That grapefruit is the one. It causes me a little bit of trouble. But I was not going for perfection here, so I didn't let it bother me. I just listened to my music and went along. One thing that I do wish that they had included was some sort of white gel pen. I think that would have made this a really complete kit. Heck, throw out that brush, or put in a better water brush. I know that they have a better watercolor brush because their Caran Studio Gouache set that I have came with a brush, and it was a wonderful brush. So I wish they had used that brush in this set. It would have worked much better than the brush that they included. However, if they could add something, a white gel pen would have been perfect. Now I'm coming through to, I went through and smoothed out that background a little bit. I took some of my greens and colored them on the palette, and where they have a little bit of white in these two particular greens that I was using, it made it a little bit more opaque, and I came through and did a wash over that background again, and it really helped smooth things out. Again, it's not perfect, but it's much better than it was. But yeah, so like I said, the only thing that I think is lacking is some sort of white so that I can do highlights. Like, I would have loved to be able to do highlights on this. Now, I could have brought in my own gel pen, but I was trying to stick with the supplies that I had here, other than the brush, of course. Because, well, I don't know why. I guess I was just trying to challenge myself. If I was going to bring in other brushes, I guess I could have brought in a white gel pen. But I just, I was trying to stick with the kit as much as I could. And this is where things go awry with this darn grapefruit. Good Lord. And I had references in front of me, and I still was struggling with the citrus. I wasn't trying to be a perfectionist about it, though. Like I said, I'm not trying for realism here, just something fun. It's a postcard. It's a freaking postcard. It's just supposed to be fun, fruity, and summery, and fresh, and I think I achieved that. Then I decided I wanted to have a really fun border. I knew ahead of time. That's one reason why I taped it the way I did. I knew I was going to want to have a fun and playful border so that I could get really good use out of the rest of those markers, because initially I thought the whole picture was just going to be with the pencils and then the border would be with the markers, but I did end up combining both in the picture as well. But this way I was also able to bring in a couple of the colors that I didn't really use before, like that darker blue and the purple, the dastardly purple that is fine unless you add water to it. But I did have so much fun with this, and I love how the border came out. I just used some geometric shapes, and it kind of makes me think of the 90s. This really makes me think of the types of clothing and designs that we saw in bathing suits and things like that. But yeah, that's where it was kind of showing through, which is kind of a bummer. I'll probably cover that with white paint or gel pen. But let me know what you think. Would you ever want to try this kit? And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Hype it if you can. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic day. Bye.